My hands are shaking. It's not just the damp morning fog seeping into my joints. It's the weight of the pen. Scratch. I just crossed out the last name in my old leather address book. Thomas. He was the last one. The house behind me is completely silent. It's a library of echoes now. I'm the only one left breathing. And I'm sitting here at 80 years old with nothing but ghosts and a cup of cold tea. I used to think I had all the time in the world. I was wrong. If you are watching this, if you are holding on to anger right now, if you are waiting for someone to apologize because you know you are right, please, listen to me for a few minutes. I'm at the end of my road, but you can still change yours. Don't make my mistake. It is so quiet here now, but 30 years ago, my life was drowning in noise. Sometimes, if I close my eyes, I can still hear the phantom ringing of the office phones, 3 lines blinking at once, the constant vibration in my pocket, my blood pressure always running at the red line. Back in my 40s and 50s, I was a builder. At least, that's what I told myself. I was building my fortress, the big career, the beautiful home, the bulletproof reputation. I walked around the world putting imaginary tags on everything. Mine, my job, my house, my wife, my children. I treated my family like assets on a balance sheet. I truly believed that if I gripped them hard enough, if I managed them perfectly, I could keep them forever. The truth is, I used the noise to hide. I was terrified of the silence. If I stopped moving, if I stopped working, I'd have to sit with my own thoughts. I would have to look at the man in the mirror. So, I ran. I escaped into the stress. I wore my exhaustion like a badge of honor. But my greatest sin wasn't the work. It was my pride. I worshipped at the altar of being right. I treated my own living room like a courtroom. Every disagreement with my spouse, every small mistake my kids made, it was a battle I had to win. I kept score. I remembered every slight. I remember the exact look on my wife's face when she would just give up and walk away. I remember my children staring down at their dinner plates, waiting for my lecture to end. I was right, and I was alone in the same room with the people who loved me. I was so busy guarding my kingdom, so busy being important, that I didn't realize I was turning my home into a prison. People think the wake-up call is always violent, a heart attack, a screech of tires, a sudden disaster. But my crash didn't make a sound. It was just the slow, cruel drip of time. It started with my parents. That is the natural order of things. You cry and you move on. But then, the circle started to shrink. My older brother, gone. My college roommate, cancer. One by one, the people who remembered me when I was young, they just vanished. I'd pick up the phone to call a friend to complain about the news, and I'd remember, oh, he's not there anymore. And then, 5 years ago, my wife, the woman I spent 40 years living with, the woman I spent decades arguing with over the right way to load the dishwasher or how to spend our weekends. One ordinary Tuesday morning, her heart just stopped in her sleep. No warning, no grand goodbye, just gone. I came back from the funeral to the house we built, the fortress I was so proud of, and for the first time in my life, the absolute weight of silence hit me. There were no phones ringing, no footsteps upstairs, no quiet humming from the kitchen, just me. I sat down in my expensive armchair. The grandfather clock in the hallway sounded like a sledgehammer. Tick, tick, tick. I looked at her empty chair. I looked at the dust settling on my trophies on the mantelpiece. All the awards, the plaques, the things I bled for, they were just pieces of metal. Trash. In that silence, the grand illusion of my life shattered. I had been so obsessed with ownership. But you don't own people. You don't own time. All those arguments I won. All those times I proved I was the smartest person in the room. What did it get me? I stood there, the absolute victor, the last one standing. And it was the loneliest feeling in the world. I was a ghost in a house of memories, a king of an empty castle. The worst part was I couldn't run anymore. My 80-year-old knees wouldn't let me sprint away from the pain. The company was sold, There was no more busyness to escape into, no noise to drown out my own mind. I was forced to sit in the quiet. I had to face the man I had become. For the first few months, the silence felt like it was suffocating me. I felt robbed. I was so angry at the world for taking everything away from me. But then, sitting on this very porch, watching the seasons change without anyone to share it with, something in me finally broke. In a good way. I am holding this cup of cheap, instant tea in my hands. The mug is chipped. The tea is lukewarm. But the warmth of it against my old palms, it feels like a miracle. Somewhere in the trees, a bird has started to sing. Just a small, ordinary sound cutting through the morning mist. A few years ago, I wouldn't have even heard that bird. I would have been too busy planning, worrying, and strategizing. But I hear it now. There was a morning about a year after my wife passed when I was sitting right here in this exact spot. I was preparing myself for another day of the heavy, suffocating silence. But then, something shifted. I looked at the empty chair beside me, and instead of focusing on the absence, I focused on the fact that she was ever there at all. It hit me like a sudden burst of sunlight. I never owned her. I never owned my children. I didn't own my friends. They were never my property. They were a gift. They were just on loan to me from the universe. And oh, what a magnificent loan it was. For 40 years, I was allowed to wake up next to my best friend. For decades, I was allowed to hear the laughter of my children running down the hallway. The grief inside me didn't disappear, but it changed shape. The bitterness melted away. It turned into an overwhelming, staggering gratitude. I didn't feel robbed anymore. I felt like the luckiest man who had ever lived. That was the day I stopped fighting the silence. I realized the silence wasn't my enemy. The silence was just space. It was a blank canvas. And because I couldn't run away from myself anymore, I finally sat down and made friends with my own mind. The house is still quiet, yes, but it is not a terrifying quiet. It is a sanctuary. My life now is so small. To the man I used to be, it would look like nothing. But I have never been happier. I wake up before the sun. I don't look at a clock. I just feel the light change in the room. I walk downstairs, slowly. My knees ache, but it's a good ache. It reminds me I'm still here. I make my tea. I slice an apple. I sit on the porch. I watch the neighbors walk their dogs. I see the young mothers rushing their kids to school, stressed, looking at their watches. I want to whisper to them, slow down. You are missing the best part. I spend my afternoons tending to the small pond in the backyard. I just watch the koi fish swim, the orange and white scales moving through the dark water. No meetings, no deadlines, just the gentle ripple of the water. Sometimes I wash the dishes by hand, the warm soapy water, the simple honest work of it. Back then I would have paid someone else to do it, thinking my time was too valuable. Now I see it as a privilege. I am alive, and I am washing a bowl. What a beautiful thing. I have let go of the need to be the main character. I have let go of the heavy, exhausting armor of being right. It takes so much energy to hold on to anger. It takes so much work to protect your ego. When you finally drop it, the lightness is incredible. I am no longer the general leading the army. I am just a witness. I am cheering from the sidelines. When the neighbor's kid kicks a ball into my yard, I don't get angry about my lawn. I laugh. I throw it back. I wave. Every ordinary moment is dripping with magic now. The taste of fresh bread. The smell of rain on dry concrete. The feeling of a wool blanket on a chilly night. These aren't the things that happen between life's big moments. These are the big moments. This is what life is made of. The small, beautiful nothings. I have lost everything I thought mattered. The empire is gone. The titles are gone. The address book is full of crossed out names. But I am at peace. Total, absolute peace. I am closing the address book now. The leather is cool under my fingertips. A little cloud of dust rises from the pages. Look at me. You do not need to wait until you are 80 years old to learn this. You do not need a tragedy to wake up. Put down your weapons. Stop trying to win every argument with the people you love. Being right is the loneliest victory in the world. When you're at the end, your resume will be meaningless. Your bank account will be invisible. The only thing that will matter, the only thing, is how kind you were. Life is not a battle to be won. It is a series of ordinary, beautiful moments to be witnessed. The morning coffee, the sound of rain, the hand you are holding. Do not take them for granted. They are not guaranteed. I cannot fix my past. But you can change your future right now. Tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you are waiting to say to someone you love? An apology? A thank you? Please, do not wait until the house is quiet to say it. I know how tired you are. I see the weight you are carrying. You are running so fast, terrified that if you let your guard down, if you stop pushing, your whole world will collapse. You feel like you have to defend your ground every single day. I lived that exact same nightmare. For 50 years, I thought control was safety. I thought winning every argument at the dinner table meant I was protecting my family. I was so convinced that my status, my money, and my correctness would shield me from the cold. That is the great lie we are sold, and I bought it completely. The brutal truth is this: when the room finally goes dark, your trophies won't hold your hand. Being right cannot make you a cup of tea. I sit on this porch and look at these empty chairs, and my heart physically aches not for the business deals I lost, but for the times I chose my pride over my wife's feelings. I traded the only real wealth I ever had for a handful of ash. I was so smart, and I was such a fool. Don't wait to be 80 years old, holding a crossed-out address book, to figure this out. Do this for me today. Just one thing. Look at the person you are in conflict with right now, spouse, your child, your estranged friend. Go to them, drop the scorecard, say the words, "I am sorry and I love you," even if you are right, especially if you are right. The argument will be forgotten in a week, but the silence that comes when they are gone, that lasts forever.